You are not who you think you are, not even close. The person you call yourself, the one with the name, the memories, the opinions, the fears, that person was invented, built from scratch, assembled piece by a 3-pound organ that has never once seen the outside world and never will. And the strangest part? It invented you to survive. Not to be accurate, not to be real, just to survive. Here is what neuroscience has quietly confirmed over the last 30 years. The self is not something you have. It is something your brain does. Every single morning when you wake up, your brain does not find you. It reconstructs you. It pulls together your memories, your sense of body, your social identity, your sense of continuity across time, and it stitches them into a character, a story, the story it calls you. Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio spent decades studying patients whose brains had been damaged in specific ways. What he found disturbed him. When certain regions were disrupted, regions responsible for integrating memory, emotion, and bodily sensation, patients did not lose their intelligence. They did not lose their language. What they lost was their self. They could reason perfectly, but could not decide. Could remember facts, but could not remember who they were supposed to be. The self, Damasio concluded, is not a fixed thing stored somewhere in the brain. It is an ongoing construction, a process your brain runs continuously, like a program that never closes. Stop and think about what that means. Right now, your brain is running you, not the other way around. And this construction, this story it tells, is not neutral. It is edited, filtered, shaped by every experience you have ever had, every belief you absorbed before you were old enough to question it, every identity you were handed by your family, your culture, your language. The story your brain tells about you is not a documentary. It is closer to a novel, written in real time with an unreliable narrator and a protagonist who has no idea they are fictional. Psychologist McAdams has spent his career studying what he calls narrative identity. His conclusion is direct. Humans do not experience their lives as a sequence of events. They experience their lives as a story, with a main character, with themes, with a plot that connects the past to the present and projects forward into an imagined future. You are not living your life, you are narrating it. And the narrator, as any writer knows, always shapes the story to fit the ending they already believe in. This is why you remember the past differently from how it happened, not because your memory is broken, because your brain is editing the past to make the story of you more coherent, more consistent, more survivable. The embarrassing moments shrink. The moments that confirm your identity grow. The memories that would require you to completely rethink who you are get quietly buried or rewritten. Your brain is not trying to deceive you. It is trying to maintain the story, because a stable story of self is what allows you to make decisions, form relationships, and function inside a social world that requires you to be the same person tomorrow that you were today. But here is where it gets strange. That story can be changed, not easily, not without resistance. But the fact that the self is constructed means it is not fixed. Philosopher Derek Parfit spent years thinking about personal identity and arrived at a conclusion so radical that many people find it either terrifying or liberating. There is no deep further fact about personal identity beyond the physical and psychological continuity. There is no soul hiding behind the story. There is no true self waiting to be discovered underneath the layers. There is only the story. And if there is only the story, then you are the author, not just the character. Think about the stories you tell about yourself right now. I am someone who cannot do this. I have always been like that. This is just who I am. Every one of those sentences is a plot point your brain inserted into your narrative. Every one of them feels true because your brain has repeated them so many times they have become load-bearing walls in the structure of your identity. But a load-bearing wall is not a law of physics. It is a choice made so long ago you forgot it was a choice. The people who change most dramatically across a lifetime are not the ones who discover something new about themselves. They are the ones who realize the story they have been telling is just one version, that the narrator can be questioned, that the protagonist can make different choices, not because they found their true self, but because they rewrote the character. Antonio Damasio called the self the protagonist of your autobiography. McAdams called it a personal myth. Thomas Metzinger, whose work you have encountered before, went further and said the self is a transparent illusion. Transparent not because it is obvious, but because you cannot see it. You look through it at everything else without ever noticing the glass. You have been looking through that glass your entire life. You called it reality. It was always the story. And the story is still being written right now, in this moment, by a brain that has never once asked your permission, constructing a you that feels completely real, completely continuous, completely yours. The question is not who you really are underneath the story. The question is whether the story you are living is one worth telling. Because you are not a person who was born with a fixed identity waiting to be discovered. You are a story that is still being written, and you are the only one holding the pen.